Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at Arch Linux. So let's review Arch Linux. So here we are logged into a freshly installed system. This is on physical hardware, not a VM. I'm recording this using a capture card. Now the Arch philosophy is keep it simple. So the main theme here is minimalism, customizability, and cutting edge software. So by default, you get a simple text-based system just like you see here. So it's easy to install a desktop if you want, including all of the flashy effects and other beautiful graphical stuff. Now, to start out, let's take a look at memory usage. Free-H, and you can see out of 32 gigs of RAM, actually it's listing as 31 there, we have 621 megs in use and 30 gigs free, right? We have 4 gigs of swap, 0 in use. So that's not too bad, a whole lot better than when you have KDE or GNOME installed. I'm going to be installing those later, not in this video. This video is all text-based. So let's take a quick look at what we have for CPU. LS CPU. And let's just pipe it to less. Whoops. I don't have the less command. Like I said, it's minimal. More. Okay, so here you see we have an i7 9700K. That's a CPU. I guess it shows it in the fast fetch output there too. And we have 8 cores. So let's just check the file systems and how we have those laid out. So let's take a look at LSBLK. We have one disk. And we are using BTRFS or ButterFS, B3FS, however you want to say it. So we have this partitioned into a boot partition and a partition for BTRFS. So 1 gig for boot, and we have 930.5 gigs for B3FS, and that is using subvolumes for our varlog, varcache, Pacman package, home, and root. And let's see what else do we have here. Let's take a look at df-h output, and you can see our root file system. You can see all those, anything on SDA2 is really that's a B3FS. That's the same. You can see SDA2 in multiple places there for home, for root, for other things. That's because those are subvolumes. So those are subvolumes on our ButterFS file system. So let's take a look at our file system table. And you can see in here, disks identified by UUID, and you can see BTRFS, so root, home, varcache, Pacman package, varlog, all BTRFS subvolumes. And you see we're using VFAT for the boot partition, just because that's what it needs to be accessible by our UEFI BIOS. So let's see, what else do we want to look at here? We have a network connection, so let's clear this. We have our network configured. We basically use the same, we told it to use the same configuration that we used during installation, just using DHCP. So IPA, we're using a wired Ethernet connector right here. So you can see ENO2. That is our first Ethernet device. We have a Wi-Fi device there that's recognized. We're just not using Wi-Fi because this is a desktop system. We see I have a IP address assigned to this through DHCP. And while we're at it, let's take a look. For a network manager, we're using systemd network D. So we can say systemctl status systemd network D. You can see it is active and running, processing requests. This is what is managing our interface, our network interface for us. You can see down there in the logs, DHCP version 4 address. It got the address for us, brought the link up, everything else, right? So, by the way, as you can see, Arch uses systemd. Now, another thing I want to show you is the Nvidia drivers. So let's clear this. We're going to have to fix that later too, not in this video. But if you do lsmod and rep for NVI, no proprietary modules. But if you grep for NOU, you can see you have the Nuvo drivers right there. So those are all the modules for the community edition open source NVIDIA drivers that have less performance. They aren't as good. And in some cases, like with KDE, I've had KDE crash with these. So, well, KDE with Wayland, KDE with X Windows, no problem. So KDE, Wayland, and Nuvo crashes for me on Arch anyways. So we're kind of expecting that once I install all of that stuff. We'll get to that later. So let's clear this out. And the package manager that Arch Linux uses is called Pacman. It's fast, it's really excellent, it's flexible, terrific package manager. Everybody loves it. So you can do a full system up. So it is Pacman. Now you're going to need sudo, you're going to need root permissions. So sudo Pacman. And to do a full system upgrade, you can do a dash capital S Y U. Now, S tells it to, capital S tells it to sync, Y tells it to pull down the latest repo info for the latest packages out there, and the U tells it to just update everything. So let's do a full system upgrade. It's going to be fast because I know I'm already upgraded. And there we go. It says there's nothing to do. Starting full system upgrade, nothing to do. Everything's already done because we are up to date. Now, if we had waited a while, that might have to do a lot of stuff and it might take a few minutes. So the other thing you can do, Pacman-S to install a package and just specify the package like fast fetch. So Pacman-S fast fetch, and whatever package you want to install, just specify the package name like that. Hit enter because the default is yes. And there you go. It would install it. Now it didn't install it here. Actually, it looks like it tried to reinstall it. But anyways, I already have it installed, so it didn't take very long, and you didn't actually have to see it install the package. Now, that's the package manager, Pacman, the package manager for Arch. Everybody loves Pacman. It's a terrific package manager. Let's clear this out. Now, I'd like to point out that Arch Linux is a rolling release model, so there are no point releases. It just installs whatever the latest software is. And it's generally bleeding edge. It might not be tested as well as on some other distros, so it might lead to some instability. So you just have to be careful when you're installing things or doing a full system upgrade. So it's living life on the edge. So it's also user-centric and transparent. So Arch doesn't do much for you automatically. You build your system from the ground up. You pick your kernel, your desktop, your window manager, your bootloader. This, by the way, is not using grub. It's using systemd boot. So the systemd boot manager, which is fine if you're using a UEFI system. It's not as flexible or feature rich as grub, but so long as you're not using an old BIOS system, you'll be fine, and it's completely fine. So yeah, basically with Arch, you learn how each component fits together. The entire system is completely under your control. No background daemons or configuration managers that you don't choose yourself, except systemd. You're kind of stuck with that if you're using Arch. So you'd have to use something like Artix or something if you don't want systemd. Another thing I should mention is excellent documentation. The Arch Wiki is known for being incredibly thorough and having information for practically anything you would want to do with Arch. Anything you want to do in Arch, it's going to be there in the Arch Wiki. So that is one of the big upsides to Arch. And even if you use a different distro, like for example, even if you're on Ubuntu or something, a lot of times people find themselves referencing the Arch Wiki to see how a Linux component works, even if you're not on Arch specifically. So anyways, that is it. This is our review of Arch Linux. Now, plenty of other videos where we install KDE, GNOME, and other graphical desktop environments. We're going to be doing Hyperland and a lot of other stuff. This is just Arch by itself without any extra software installed. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. Might want to give me a thumbs up for this video. Leave a comment down below if you have your own experience with Arch Linux, and you're definitely going to want to hit that subscribe button. We do a lot more content like this and a lot more other content like how to do things. We do cover the graphical environment. We cover a lot of command line stuff, a lot of Linux commands, not just Arch Linux. We're doing Gentoo, Ubuntu, basically trying to touch upon every distro out there. And we still do Mac OS and Windows stuff too. We do a lot of hardware, software, coding, networking, electronics, robots, 3D printing, Raspberry Pi, all that good stuff. You don't want to miss out, so make sure you're subscribed, and definitely hit the bell icon too so you actually get updates when we come out with new videos. But that's it for today, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on that next video.